Welcome to the Rock and Roll Show podcast. We're here to share the thrill of experiencing music together with strangers and friends and to get to know our guests a little bit better through their musical experiences. I'm your host, Alex Gadd, and I do this because I love talking about music with people. Finding out what bands someone likes and how they got into music allows us to get to know and understand one another better. Today, we have a great guest for you. His name is Devlin Jack Guttridge. He's a 16-year-old guitar player from Florida who's quickly gaining a following in his area and online. So stick around for my conversation with Devlin Jack Guttridge coming up right now. Devlin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you. Now, when we start these and I'm talking to a musician, I really like to start just at the beginning of how you first got exposed to music. I know your parents, I know your mom from high school, so I know that they're big music fans. How did you first get exposed to music and start reacting to it or acknowledging it as not just something in the background, but something you actually responded to?
I picked up the violin in third grade for no other reason than why not? I can't tell you what made me pick that thing up, but I just decided to one day. And I remember throughout that school year, so my mother was telling me, oh, you should try playing guitar. Guitar's a really cool instrument. So I did. And I spent, I want to say, the better part of a year learning how to play classical guitar out of a book, which now that is far from what I'm doing now, but it's a start. And one day, like my mother has these, she still has them, a lot of CDs. And among them are two Ozzy Osbourne albums, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. I remember Diary of a Madman was the one that she'd play a lot when she was working out downstairs in the basement. And one day I just heard it. The song was either Flying High Again or Over the Mountain. I can't remember which one it was specifically, but I think it was probably Flying High Again. That was the first song that I heard. And I was like, how about I do something with this guitar thing that I'm quite hating and make it something that I'm actually going to enjoy? So I was like, okay, we try playing that. And my first teacher absolutely helped me out. But we realized that I wasn't really getting anywhere. So we wanted to look to someone who's doing it professionally, as in playing guitar. And it's a very odd story, or a very odd relationship rather. But my mother's hairdresser's husband was in he was in a band, absolutely phenomenal drummer, Mr. Miles Evans, if he's watching. God bless you. Phenomenal at what he does and great guy as well. He was in a band called the Beatless, and as you can guess by the name, it was a spin-off of the Beatles. They did CCR, just generally classic rock in that sort of country-ish vein. And he had a guitarist named Mr. Mike Essex. Awesome guy. First lesson I had with him was more productive than any lesson I'd ever had before, and I quickly started getting a bit of a grasp on music theory and such. We stayed with him until I left Maryland, by which point I had done a school talent show and done the biggest thing I know in School of Rock was a Led Zeppelin sort of cover camp type thing where we would have practice once a week and we would do two live shows. Those two venues we played with that Led Zeppelin group, and I still have a lot of good friends in that group. Still talk with them every now and then because I'm not the best staying in contact. Hi, George. Hi, Phil, if you're watching, which, by the way, they're also great musicians, really good. But that was my first sort of real concert. I mean, there are definitely clips of stuff before them that I'm not as proud of. But the Led Zeppelin concert was really when I started getting a grip on playing live. After moving down to Miami, my current teacher is Mr. Sebastian Lands, who works at Walt Grace Vintage. If you're ever in Miami, gotta stop by the place. Vintage cars, vintage guitars. It's just heaven. It's heaven on earth. Amazing.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. I want to make sure we get it all clearly. You started playing violin when you were younger. You got into your mom encouraging you to play guitar. Ozzy was and Diary of a Madman was your first music that you heard that really inspired you to maybe think that guitar might be something you wanted to try. You took some lessons and you think you're about 10 then? Is that right?
Yeah, by the time that we started working with Mike, I was probably in fifth grade, so I would say 11 or so.
My point is you've been playing guitar for only 6 years. from start
Yeah,
to
but
now.
there are very
Really was.
formative years, they're very important years.
100%. I think it's the easiest time to learn to play an instrument and to really absorb it. And when you try to learn things as an adult, it's much harder. From what I learned as a kid, still comes back to me as second nature. And the things that I'm learning now as a guitar player, I really have to practice a lot more, and it's not as easily recalled. So I think it's great. So you played and you started taking lessons, and then you played in a group at School of Rock first. Is
Yes.
that the first time you played with other people?
Pretty much. Well, I do need to give credit to the family band here. I think the very first time I probably played with another group was, funny enough, my own father and my own mother. And I remember my father saying to me that if he was to get me an electric guitar, he would get the bass as well. I remember specifically thinking, oh, yeah, if we get this guitar at the 4th of July sale, it's going to be a lot less. I was like trying to convince my parents. They're still doing that now. Um, and I ended up getting this, I want to say 2019, 2018 Epiphone Les Paul Standard 60s. And that guitar, sadly, I don't have it with me. It's in Michigan. So it's still a great instrument. There are some upgrades I'll do to it, such as changing out the pickups and such. And obviously, there are guitars I prefer more, but that thing has stayed with me and likely will stay with me forever because at the same time, it doesn't, like, it's not like I can sell the thing off because A, sentimental value, and there's not much to be gained from selling it off, even in monetary
Right.
terms. But that guitar's basically going to be stuck with me for forever and is a very solid instrument. I'm very happy to still have it. My father ended up getting this Epiphone Thunderbird bass, which he ended up buying, I want to say 3 of them. Not the T bass.
Oh,
The T bass
nice.
here we bought from Walgreens,
Yep.
that was, I'm pretty sure that's the one that he had while we had a condo in South Beach. And my mother said, oh, I want to be involved. And her father played drums. So my mother decided, okay, I'm going to get lessons from my hairdresser's husband, who's the same guy who introduced us to my guitar teacher. So she ended up taking lessons from Mr. Evans, and she's come to own his kit, actually. I'm going to turn this around. That is Mr. Miles Evans' former kit. Still loved, still played, still used on a damn near daily basis.
So your first band was playing with your mom and dad.
Pretty much. I mean, as far as I can remember, there was like a Beatles camp I did for a week in summer of like 2020 and for School of Rock. And there's a like classic rock thing I did later that summer, maybe a summer later for about a week as well. But those were not like serious groups I practiced with quite a bit, at least for any significant amount of time beyond a week. My mother and father, though, I mean, I literally was playing with them about an hour ago. So still playing with them quite a bit. And it's been cool to see the evolution of playing and of the gear. It's very, very cool, actually. It's made this room pretty awesome.
As you started playing, how did you progress, and what music were you playing that inspired you to progress in different directions? So, can you talk about the connection between the music that inspired you and how you developed your guitar playing?
Here's my imaginary graph of how heavy something is. The top is heavier, the bottom is lighter, not as heavy. Basically, I started around Ozzy, went up to hair metal, and it got to the point where I was listening to a bit of Megadeth and a lot of Metallica. But eventually, I think I want to say the winter of maybe 2021, I discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan. That is the one artist who, even until now, that influence is totally stuck with me. I don't listen to him much nowadays, but it's because a lot of his music is repetitive. It's blues, and there's only so much you can do in a blues form. And then when you break out of that blues form, occasionally you get a gem, Crossfire, which is just an excellent song. But besides that, like, it's very monotonous. So you gotta listen to some other stuff. Now, on the other end, in terms of creativities, Led Zeppelin, who another huge influence of mine. It's the Jimmy Page type sound. Him and Billy Gibbons have this thing where it sounds like they're playing really close to the string. And that's largely because they use really light string gauges. Page and Gibbons, both, I mean, at this point, equal influences. If I mess up a note, I'll say I'm influenced by Jimmy Page and give that as a reason for my sloppiness. which is partially true. I mean, I've never focused on running scales, none of that. I would bore myself to death with them. I just can't. And there may be a day when I say, okay, I need to properly get better. But my recent practice has been focused on call and response, comping, what I've been trying to practice and what I've been listening to recently. Jerry Rafferty, specifically City is City. It's a great album.
Mhm.
All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. There's a few songs on there that I absolutely love. A lot of Tom Petty, a little bit of U2. One that is absolutely not blues in any way, shape, or form. Celebrity Skin by Hole, which is, I mean, for me, it's blues rock specifically, Led Zeppelin, all that. These guys kind of continue that on the 90s for me. Like Hole is that album in particular is just everything I love about the 90s. And on top of it, there's Soundgarden. I love Soundgarden, specifically their big album, which was, if I can
Super
remember it.
Unknown.
Yes, Super Unknown. I love that album. Listen to it front to back every now and then. Foo Fighters are a huge thing. And of course, Oasis. I love Oasis. So that's my sort of niche of music. It's a very weird niche, but it's a niche nonetheless.
No, it's great. I mean, look, everyone, is influenced by what they're influenced by. You can't always choose what hits you
Oh,
the right
totally.
way. What you can do is follow that influence and see who influenced them and what other influences you can find along the way. That's part of the journey.
The
Enjoy
only
that part.
time that's ever worked for me is Albert King. Is I found Albert King by listening to Stevie Ray, and I have to be honest,
Hmm.
Albert King, like I would not have discovered by myself. Maybe I would have heard a bit, but his phrasing and such that's been a huge effect. That's a huge test as well for tone.
Okay. So we're now at about 2020. You've moved to Florida. You've played with your family's band. You've been in School of Rock back
Slight
in Maryland. You've come
correction: we
down
moved
here.
down. I want to say the summer of 22.
Oh, okay. Got it. So you're in playing your family band. You've done School of Rock. Then you moved down to Florida. So how do you take your playing to the next level?
For starters, we have to find a new guitar teacher. But we had been
Right.
fortunate because in about 2022, we did a condo in South Beach. Very fortunate to have that. Great times in that condo. Because of that, we were in Miami, and that allows us to sort of figure out, okay, what's the best music store around here? We found it pretty quickly. Walker's Vintage. I mean, it's one of my favorite YouTubers, Music is Win. He did a 50 state guitar tour or guitar store tour. He went to the best guitar store in each state or one of the best. And of course, he went to Walker's in Florida. It's an excellent shop. And it's like, okay, we kept going back and ended up getting recommended to Sebastian, who's working there. He still does their photos for their website. He still does all the videos for the channel. And you can occasionally see him on the floor. But the summer before, like my average guitar was something like, or my average solo was just walking up and down the scale, doing like a little some kind of bend like that to make it sound special, and walking back down. And just generally over the summer there, I taught myself a lot of blues guitar. By the time I got to Sebastian, I was a fairly competent player. The biggest
Yep.
thing that Sebastian did for me is allowing me to play with his band. I still have videos of me up there in my khaki shorts with my Floyd Rose equipped Strat playing blues with his band. And Sebastian definitely targets my playing that are weak. Like it's expanding my vocabulary really. And during that time, of
Hmm.
course, I practiced quite a bit. My fastest time of progression was when I was spending 15 minutes a day before school playing my guitar in the morning. But perfectly frank with you, my practice schedule the past 2 years has been terrible. I would have made more progress if it wasn't for that. And admittedly, there is a part of me that feels like I haven't made much progress. And I'm sure from an outside perspective, it's like, oh yeah, you totally have. But it's like not what it was before. And it's a frustration of not putting my 100% into it. Now, granted, these are I did not cling my 100% for very valid reasons. School, and I want to have a social life. And the fact that standard practice is just not fun for me. But it's important to at least give yourself the opportunity to have a good practice schedule, to have that time when you just grow a lot, and then you can keep building on from that. Once you have the very basic stuff, you're pretty good.
So you would move to Florida, you met your current teacher, and he gave you some practice approaches that have worked for you.
I would modify that statement. He has given me practice approaches and such. I just haven't done them. I've not been a very good student in that regard. I've not been, as I said, I've not been good at practicing.
So the other thing you said though is that he gave you access to his band and he let you come up and play with them.
I mean, gigantic. For one, it definitely made me understand the importance of specific gear. Like right next to me, I'm not going to move it. I'll put the light on it. This is my beloved 19, I want to say 66 Fender Bassman. This is it's the sound. It's what you expect from a vintage tube amp cranked up the 10, which I've had the luxury of doing. I actually bought this from Sebastian earlier this year. The importance of having an amp that can actually push air, it's gigantic. Like my Boss Katana, which is honestly a great sounding amp. It's still good. Like I plugged it in the other day because I had just gotten my new delay pedal. I wanted to have fun with it through an actual amp, and I was surprised by how good it sounded. It is a very solid amp, but it just doesn't push air. It doesn't do what a tube amp does. I have this thing on 2.5 right now, and it's still loud, man. I mean, I'm not allowed to play through this thing normally because of how loud it is. But there's a level of fun with that, and a level of, it's like, oh, I get to play through the tube amp today. Ooh, it's awesome. Because you get that sort of inspiration from the gear, but you aren't using it every single day.
But then you got up on stage and you learned how to listen and interact with a band. And I don't know, could you even compare a School of Rock band to a band that's gigging out? To me, that's a whole different level.
Oh, depends on the quality of players. For example, my longtime friend and drummer, Phil Runk, who I mentioned earlier in this interview, he is phenomenal, easily good enough to be professional, easily. And when you meet people like that, it's a crap ton of fun. Like I met people who were better than me guitar, which is awesome. It's always good to have people around you who are better. I still think I'm not the best guitarist in my school. I mean, eh, generally speaking, I have a fairly low opinion of my practice schedule and my overall playing as a guitarist. I just know when I'm having fun and I sound good. And that's all I really care about. Besides that, it's about serving the song. It's hard to pinpoint like the exact things that compelled me to really like stay back, hang in the back, and try to be as modest as I can I'm most of the time I'm the lead guitarist. So modest and lead guitarist don't really fit into the same sentence. But at least with lead guitarists who have really good stage presence. I'm also a perfectionist. Like I'll hear, oh hell, I could have done that better. Why aren't I better at this? Like that type of thing. Um, just generally, you do need to keep a song in mind, absolutely. Like I will know when I have too much gain on. These days, I try to run with less gain than I think I need. And my school does these shows called Evening of the Arts. And at Evening of the Arts, last time, the only pedal I was using a clean pedal platform amp, a Thunder Hot Rod, which is best amp my school's gotten yet because it put a good distortion or overdrive pedal on there. The Noble's ODR1, famous for being a very transparent overdrive. I love this pedal. It's amazing. And that was all I had. I had that thing on 10, the drive on 10 and the amp on clean. He said, is there any way I can get some more gain out of this? I said, no. And frankly, it sounded great. Like the guitar sound, even when he thought he needed more gain, was really solid. And there's also the thing of backing off your volume and working up. But specifically in a blues rock setting, it's incredibly important to have an amp that pushes air, ideally a clean or at least lightly distorted amp that if you roll your volume down, you can get a totally clean sound. And to be able to have that flexibility on stage, to have different shades of gain, but also stages of gain is very important, especially for the music that I do. As long as you can have a good sound that you can sort of build off of in terms of overdrive, then you're good. But getting back to the earlier point, if you have too much distortion, then you're too much in the mind. I'm a lead guitarist. No, that's not what you're there to do. You're there to serve a song. And at the end of the day, you need to be able to pull back. And with Stewart's distortion, you can't do that. And being able to sync into the mix and serve a song like that is incredibly important. And you need to be able to do that if you're playing with people. If you are out there all the time, if you're like stupidly distorted sound, always in people's faces, especially for the genre I'm playing in, it's just not going to work, man. You're not going to get invited back. The only reason I've been invited back so many times is honestly, I could take more solos and still be well within being respectful. But I'm always like looking over at an opportunity. Whenever I think like an opportunity times, then solos come up, like the end of my 4 bars, I look over at Sebastian, and I'll roll back. I'm handing it off. I've had my time, get a step back. And this is even more so in like even with the arts, which they're very specific about volumes. Once you have your volume set, it's a show. Once you have your volume set, it's there. You cannot touch it because if you do, it sets off the whole mix. And most of the time during the show, I was on about 6 on my volume up on a totally clean amp and a transparent overdrive. I thought I didn't have enough gain. Um, and because of the way that my pedal board was, I wasn't really able to get much more gain out of them unless I used the Echoplex, which you would want to do. So that's being able to pull back into the mix and then roll up once your time to shine is really important. And another thing, playing with bands, that's great and all. I love performing. I like to actually have some of my own space on the stage, feel like I'm not claustrophobic. And I'm starting to get to that, but I've really been able to do that with even with the arts. It's really, really hard to explain performing, but when you're in that moment and you can just lose yourself, it's the greatest feeling. Every time I'm in the moment, like, oh hell, I could have played that note better. But I have to convince myself, okay, like loosen up a bit, move around. I have to convince myself to be, I guess, a bit more showing up my ego when I'm on stage, like wear more rock and roll clothing and all that. Because usually I'm very conservative. I prefer to sink into the back. I can sit in the back and play rhythm all day. I don't want to. I want to be a lead guitarist, but at the end of the day, I do really enjoy playing rhythm as well. And because of that, it's easy to sink back and just have fun. And if you can lose yourself in the music, if you can, like, anytime you make a mistake, I would just laugh or smile. And it's like, did you hear that? Okay, what's the next part of the song? Just keep rolling. You keep the show going because people want to see joy on your face. And if they see joy on your face, they don't immediately think, "Oh, you made a mistake." It's a great
Right.
way to cover it up.
Right. And
Um,
look, people want to hear real people playing. They don't want to hear
Absolutely.
exact replicas of I used to go see bands like Yes, and it was such a note for note performance of the record that I felt like I didn't need to go. I could have just gone home and turned up my stereo really loud. I don't want to see that.
There is a difference to me between live and studio. Like, first example, Oasis. Supersonic's one of my favorite songs by them. I love that song. But
One of mine
live,
too.
specifically live at Glen Eagles. Oh my God. It's incredible. It's a wall of guitars. It's got attitude. It's got this sense of uh, kind of a sense of familiarity. I forget the exact word for it, but looking back in your memories,
Nostalgia.
yes, nostalgic. There's that chorus, like it's something else, man. I mean, the songwriting, and even that to me, an album is a bunch of songs that flow from one to the next. I think What's a Story Morning Glory is one of the best albums in history. It has songs in there to fill the atmosphere to keep the whole thing going. What's a Story Morning Glory is the sound of a billion guitar tracks with God knows how much reverb. And then Liam Gallagher just belting his heart out over the top. I mean, it's incredible. But live with 2 guitar tracks, a bass, drums, and vocals, they actually do a better job of it. Oasis Live by the Sea, 1995, like Southern Cliffs. I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched that entire concert. It's incredible. But those differences, like if you sound good in the studio, it's its own challenges. I mean, I have
For
been
sure.
recently mixing. I've been doing mixing my own recording. I have come up with very few successes. The amount of failures within just the past few months, because I've been taking a production class at my school, and they give us Logic Pro on our computers. It's awesome to be able to do that. And I'm lucky enough to have my own audio interface, so I can record directly in at home. But that's another thing about serving with song, because I've also had to learn to play bass this year. And I don't mean just like play a few notes. It's like I could do that already. but properly learn how to sit in the pocket, how to do runs that add some color to the song, where to emphasize certain things. And that sort of background gives you a lot of insight in how to best serve the song as a guitarist. And also just mixing, knowing where the guitar sits in the mix. I've recognized, like, I'm using guitars primarily for my most recent thing, but a pad to glue everything together, the bass playing the main melody, how the drums come together. I've been paying attention to all of that, and it keeps you in the right frame of mind, because when you get up on stage, it's not about people saying like, "Oh yeah, get up here. You're 16. That's awesome that you can play." About the fact, no, you're actually fun to play with.
Right.
That is an incredibly important skill. If you don't have that, you're not going to get anywhere.
That's right.
Being a good bandmate is exactly that, being able to step out of the spotlight and then think to yourself, okay, it's not about like solo time anymore. It's like, how do I best serve the song?
So where do you want to take music right now, and where do you want music to take you?
I love that phrasing. Where do you want music to take you, and where do you want to take music? That's awesome. It's hard to say. I mean, I have a lot of ideas on my mind. For instance, I'm going to a liberal arts school for college. I'm not doing music anything for college. So my focus is going to be on liberal arts and physics. Physics are important in that I want to be able to repair my own amplifiers, maybe even build my own pedals, amplifiers, mess around with circuitry, all that, because I love the idea of being able to create your own gear. Being a jack of all trades or having multiple skills is incredibly important. So there is the whole idea of building me as a brand, building my own gear, should I want, or at least understanding it, tinker around. Like once I tinker with something, it's kind of hard to put it down. So you keep coming back and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like, for example, I got this delay pedal recently. This thing is exceeding what I thought a delay could do already, because it's an absolutely incredible delay pedal. But the more I tinker with it, the more I find out about it. And to be able to tinker with it and have that freedom to do what I want is awesome. Beyond that, though, as a guitarist, we're going to be spending a lot of time in Nashville. Nashville is sort of the ideal place I want to be. I nerd out equally over gear, over playing, over music, good music, all of that. And Nashville's a great hotspot for it. One thing I absolutely want to do is be a session guitarist, or at least have the opportunity to do so, because I think that's an incredibly interesting thing. Because at that point, it's not about you. It's about what sound can you pull up, how quickly can you pull it up, and how fast can you play it, or come up with a piece that fits the song perfectly. And once you learn how to serve the song, you'll figure out how to sound like you in the context of the song. But once we go to Nashville, it's really going to be about finding opportunities, getting my way into bands, and generally just playing as much as I can, learning as much as I can about music while getting by. And where it takes me from there,
That sounds good to me. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up, and before we go, I want to send a couple of fast questions by you, kind of a speed round.
now with me, and
And
definitely
this
going to be
is,
fast in terms of answering questions.
yeah, I got that. We'll figure it out. So these are questions about your experience with live music, because that's where this show started. I want my audience to get to know you, because when you're a big star one day, we're going to all say, "Hey, we heard about that guy first on the Rock and Roll Show podcast." So, first question is, what was the first concert that you ever saw?
God, this is a disgrace, and I've tried my best to wipe this from my memories. But before Ozzy Osbourne, it was a Kids Bop concert. I can't remember crap from it, but I was like, I don't know, 7. The dark times and all that. But the only proper concert I've been to besides that last year's, I went to see George Thorogood opening for Sammy Hagar. I didn't get to stay through the whole thing because he played on a Sunday night, and I had school the next day, unsurprisingly. Actually, sorry, it may have been the Thursday. I think it was a Thursday night, but I don't know why everyone loves Thursday nights around here. All the gigs I've done have been on Thursday nights. Everything school related has been a Thursday night. The open mics are Thursday night. Why? Does no one need to wake up Friday? What's going on with that?
I don't know, but we went out in college hard on Thursday night. Thursday night was our
Oh,
night.
really?
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
then.
very
Well,
odd. I understand your curiosity about it because I never understood it.
shit.
All right, so Kids Bop was your first, and then you saw George Thorogood and Sammy Hagar.
My favorite member of Led Zeppelin isn't even Jimmy Page, even though I love Page. I think the best player of their respective instrument is or was, I should say, rest in peace, John Bonham. I love John Bonham. And to see his son in concert playing with Sammy, it's like, I was thinking in the back of my mind, please do rock and roll. Please do rock and roll. They played it, man. That was awesome. That was probably the coolest part of that whole concert.
Excellent.
Um, but also how the songs sort of, because Thorogood songs are very repetitive in certain regards. They're great songs, but it's all blues stuff. So it's like, how does he wind that down and get the audience involved a bit? How's it, and he make them feel like they are a part of the song? And it's like this rising thing. Like he was the best at it, by far, between him and Hagar, because Hagar plays structured songs, and fair enough to him, that's what rock has developed into. But Thorogood's more rock and roll because he can dial it back. The songs aren't to a strict form, and there's a certain level of easiness that comes along with that that allows the song to be just more pure in the moment. And as my one of my teachers, Mr. Gale, put it to me, it's like you get the audience on the edge of their seat by dialing it back, and then you punch them right in the face when you roll the volume up and you just build back towards this crescendo. I mean, that Hagar was great, but Thorogood was the one that really stood out to me because the blues speaks to me more than more modern rock. And for that reason, I don't consider myself to be a Van Hagar fan.
Oh, I'm not either. Although I like Sammy Hagar, I'm not a Van Hagar fan.
Hey,
Huge fan.
Bon Scott over Brian Johnson any day of the week.
Oh, see, I disagree. I love Brian Johnson.
Really?
Yeah,
I,
love him.
Brian's great, but I mean, I think Bon Scott's writing was more creative and was more consistent. I think Highway to Hell and Power Ridge together
Oh, two of my
match.
favorite records of all time.
Yeah, Power Ridge is an insanely underrated record. Highway to Hell's awesome too, but it's the fact that the writing stretched consistent. And to be frank with you, after Back in Black, it's like AC/DC had a sound. They stuck to it. I mean, with rock and roll, it's either you stick to one specific sound, and eventually people find it boring, or you stay with the same thing and people find it boring.
Or
And if,
people
well,
just
if,
like what they like.
yeah, and
There are all kinds of people.
for that
You know,
reason, you need more bands. You need a lot of musicians to continuously come up with stuff. Like AC/DC, late into their career, they had some good songs. Thunderstruck's a great song, of course. For
great.
those who not in rock, it's a great song. But after Back in Black, it really did drop off. For me, with Bon Scott, it just kept getting better as you listen to the albums go on. That's the thing that's enticing about that.
The funny thing is that for the rockers who died early, every one of them you can say that about because they never had a chance to get old and get
It's a
into a
great
rut
point.
and
It's a really great
into
point.
their vibe and not and get lazy about songwriting. Like Jim Morrison too, Jimi Hendrix, he just kept getting better and then died. And Bon Scott was that way. I mean, Kurt Cobain, all of the young superstars who died. And you know, I read a bunch of books about the classic rock era now, and there's a great writer named Chuck Klosterman who's written a bunch of really good books, and some of them are all about music. And he used to be a music critic. And I just read one over the weekend, and he was talking about how it's the best career move for a rock and roll artist to die early because then they can't criticize you for getting old and lazy.
Yeah. By the way, rest in peace, Malcolm Young, probably the greatest rhythm guitarist of all time, an absolute
Other than
legend.
Keith Richards, yeah, maybe the second best rhythm player of all time.
I don't
would
know
say.
anything. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a big Stones fan, so
Oh,
I'll leave that up to you. But
okay.
um,
Yeah,
I guess
Malcolm Young is incredible. He was
totally.
the sound of AC/DC for sure.
And then you have Angus riding over the top with these
Yeah, which
distorted
is
power
just
chords.
incredible.
That's
And
awesome.
Angus is also a great rhythm guitar player.
Oh,
He's the
totally.
lead
Yeah.
guitar player in AC/DC, but he plays a ton of rhythm and he's awesome. They're both great at it. And it must run in the family because their nephew Stevie now fills in for
Oh
Malcolm
yeah,
and he
yeah.
sounds exactly the same. Like they all have that vibe. It's just incredible. And their
That's
oldest
cool.
brother was in a 60s band, the first Australian rock band, the
Oh, that's
Easy
awesome.
Beats. So
That's really
they,
cool. I
yeah,
didn't know
very
that.
interesting. Yeah, George Young. And he ended up producing AC/DC after he quit being a rocker. Anyway, um, I want to get back to these speed round questions. Um,
Look, I don't think these can be speed at all.
I dig it. I understand. So the next concert you're going to see, and I am cheating because I already know what it is, but what is the
Oh
next
yeah,
concert you're going to see?
this is a hope, a strong hope. Oasis. They have a solid lineup for Oasis. As long as they have Bonehead back, and I was hoping for like Zach Starkey, one of the more punky, straight ahead drummers, rather than Alan White. But Alan's obviously excellent at what he does too. As long as they have Bonehead back, I'll be happy.
All right, well then you go. I think he's back, so that's good.
You can't have Oasis without Bonehead. That attitude, that authenticity, as you said, that's extremely important. And if you don't
100%.
have Bonehead, you don't have that.
Yeah, I agreed. Last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. What is it about music that still gets you really excited and you're so clearly passionate about it? Do you ever think about what is it just about music and rock and roll music in particular? Because most kids your age are into a completely different set of musical influences than you are. So, what is it about rock and roll music that really grabbed you and continues to get you as jazzed up as you clearly are? And by jazzed up, I mean rocked up as you clearly are.
I think the thing about rock and roll is that, and I lean on the country side, the bluesier side, sort of a little tiny bit of jazz in there, blues, a little bit of country, and a lot of what became rock and roll. There's a certain just, it's really hard to describe. When a rock song gets rolling, it's this feeling of electricity. I mean, it's as simple as you can put it. It's heart pumping. It just sounds like a bunch of boulders sliding down a cliff if it's done correctly. But rock specifically, it's also hard for me to find because I'm not entirely sure what rock music refers to. And there is a difference between what I listen to and what I play. Absolutely. I play blues rock and such because it's more fun to play. I don't listen to much blues rock at all. I mean, sure, I listen to Led Zeppelin. So, I mean, what I listen to, like Bittersweet Symphony is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. What I play is blues rock. It's the most fun to play. What I listen to is stuff that it's new, it's inspiring. But at the end of the day, the reason I love music is it's partially playing, it's partially listening. I don't have the patience to read books. I'll fully admit that. I listen to albums instead. And I do it while doing homework. It is multitasking. Maybe I'd be more efficient at homework if I was just not listening to music and I was focused specifically on it. But to have that going in the back of my mind, sort of being like a half days while doing my homework, I still get my homework done well. It's certainly not an issue. But to be able to have that going on in your mind is puts you in a happy place. It's a really cool thing. I've been fortunate enough to where I found something I truly enjoy doing. I'm not going to get burnt out. Didn't start at too early of an age, but you, at the end of the day, the only person you're competing with is yourself. And if you are happy doing what you're doing, and you are happy, if you're even content not getting better, then fair enough. But for me, I need to keep getting better. I'm in competition with myself. The people around me are really just a framework for where I expect myself to be. And beyond that, it's just, okay, what can I do better? Put simply, there's something in it. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe in 20 years, I'll have a good reason for what it is. I'll be able to put into words, but right now I can't. And that's fine by me. I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
That's a good way to wrap it up. Well, Devlin Jack Guttridge, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for
I
having me.
I really can't wait to see where music takes you and where you go with it. That's it for today's conversation. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday. And if you like what you heard today, we'd appreciate it if you would like and either subscribe or follow to make sure you get notified about every new episode. And please tell your friends. Also, a reminder that we release a playlist for every episode. This one's going to be a doozy. Look for the Rock and Roll Show podcast playlist on Spotify every week, featuring songs from the bands that Devlin and I talked about on the show today. Additionally, we want to know what you think, so please leave us a comment. We'll try to respond to all of them. The Rock and Roll Show podcast is a World Highway Media production. I'm your host, Alex Gadd. And until next time, remember that life is short, so get those concert tickets. Hey, do you want to bring your mom and dad in?
Oh boy.